Welcome to the Dr. Detective, a PhD true crime podcast, the show where we bring you critical assessment based on experience. We have another great episode today talking about the sheriff with fake warrants. This is out of Harris County, Texas. The sheriff had fake warrants and arrested somebody. So we're going to talk about this case, of course, brought to you by the podcast. You can find us on YouTube. And if you look at the bottom there, you can like, share, and subscribe there at youtube.com at the Dr. Detective Troy Looney. Also, you can find us on our website. I'm going to put that banner here to scroll as well. Go to the drdetective.net and click on podcasts. You can click on any one of those pictures and links. It will take you directly to the YouTube channel, right? You can also find us on Spotify, streaming, Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, and Audible. So again, share, like, subscribe, and let's get right into this. This story based out of Harris County, Texas. This is January 2023. So this sheriff here, this is Kenneth Daniel Price, approaches a young lady. She's on her lunch break. She's actually a Harris County clerk of courts. She is one of the clerks at the courts there. That's Lenisha J. Parker. So she's eating lunch at Chipotle, and on her break, right from work, she's approached by the deputy, Kenneth Daniel Price. I'm sorry, Kenneth Daniel Price, and he basically says, "You have warrants for your arrest." At that time, she's asking, what warrants. She doesn't know any warrants. No, she has any warrants for. Obviously, she does not. So she's kind of curious, like, can you show me or tell me? He basically places her into custody, calls for additional deputies to the location, and she is placed under arrest. Now, he's in plain clothes when he approaches her initially, and he puts her into the back of a regular vehicle, unmarked car, because it didn't have like the dividers like most cruisers would have, or separation or cage. So she's placed in handcuffs, put into the back of a regular vehicle. There's no paperwork for him to show her. She's asking for paperwork. Can you verify? She obviously knows the process, working in the courts, working at the clerk's office, because they actually clerk warrants that are active. She would have known, or someone would have probably told her, but he mentioned this is out of another jurisdiction. So that's probably why she's like wondering what's going on. She complied and gets handcuffed, put into the back of a regular car. So, of course, she's thinking this is strange because the sheriff is obviously lying at that time. He told her she had warrants for burglary out of Fort Worth, Texas, right? Which is not the case. Burglary out of another, burglary warrants on file out of another jurisdiction. So the sheriff here lied. That's Kenneth Price there. He lied. Again, she's put into a regular unmarked car. Again, strange, right? Why wouldn't you have any marked units to place her under arrest, or a wagon or something to that effect? But he transports her not to the jail initially. Him and the other units take her to her residence, right? So they take Lenisha Parker to her home and ask her for consent to search. She says, "No, unless I can accompany you, or go with you. You can't search my home. Why would you search my home?" They go into her purse, remove her keys, still no active warrants, and they proceed to go into her home. They literally ransack her home. So, question I have: do you think the police can search your purse, or how would you feel about that? Right? It's already bad enough, just the privacy, right to privacy. We're going to talk about the Fourth Amendment, search and seizure briefly, and some of the penal codes out of Texas that apply. But do you think the police can search your purse or wallet with or without consent or arrest being present? Of course, in this case, she's thinking, well, they arrested me, so they can go in my purse, get my keys. But how about the house there, right? Question upon question upon question, questionable behavior, questionable actions, right? Essentially. So I ask you, put the chat in the comment, yes or no, if you think they can search your purse, or search your wallet, or search your person, right? If you know you don't have warrants, you'd be kind of surprised, right? And then we'll talk about at the very end some of the fake warrant scams that are going around. But in this case, this is an actual sheriff's deputy, the same county she works in. Let's talk about the Fourth Amendment. So again, we all have the right to be secure It's a right of us as the people to be secure in our persons. It means our body, our physical body, our houses, our papers and effects against unreasonable search and seizures. So that shall not be violated based on the Fourth Amendment of the Constitution. And no warrant shall issue but upon probable cause, supported by oath and affirmation. So they had to swear to this under oath, right? So we do any other day, or I've done occasionally, just have to do that this week, even to send a paper subpoena out. I have to swear to that in front of the judge that everything's accurate. I affirm these facts are true. I affirm I have probable cause to execute the subpoena or search warrant. And then they have to describe the place to be searched, persons, places, and or things to be seized also, including people, including property, including devices, including contraband. Everything has to be identified, articulated in that warrant, right? Same with an arrest warrant. So they had none of this, right? So again, some of these stories you just can't make up. How do we select these? It just depends what happens. People are always doing something, unfortunately, but this is clearly a violation of several rights to privacy, uh, Fourth Amendment rights, right, to be secure. And we'll talk about some other components, other potential offenses that have occurred, right? So this initially is like a kidnapping. If someone takes you, saying you're under arrest, they arrest you, remove you from that place, take you to several places, and ultimately she ends up in jail, and that gets even worse there. So I ask you again, can deputies, officers search you without a warrant or without consent? Of course, there's always exigent circumstances that apply, but in this case, do you think this is lawful, or this is just kind of crazy as it appears to sound? It is pretty much as wild as it sounds. So they go to her home, still no search warrant. Leave her in the car. She's in this plain car, still handcuffed. They ransack her home after going through her purse, right? What are they looking for? So initially, Deputy Price is saying he was looking for her ex-husband for other unrelated warrants that he had. But he actually had no warrants on Lenisha Parker. No warrants, no active warrants, no warrant or search warrant to seize her or her home or her purse, right? For that matter. So no active warrants. They continue. She is then taken to the jail where she is booked. Again, when we say booked, initially information entered, she's placed into a holding cell, and you're supposed to give the charges and everything that you have. You're supposed to show the warrant. That warrant has to be taken back to the clerk's office and clerked, or back to the judge, I'm sorry. But you sign what's called a return on the search warrant that you've executed or served. So you have to sign a return on that. But there's no warrant that exists. So what did Price sign? Right? There's no paperwork. She's not even in the system as having an active warrant. You're supposed to also confirm that warrants are active by radio, by communications. So again, so many violations in play here, so many things that happen, so ridiculous. So this is why a lawsuit's been filed. So because no warrants were entered, no information was entered, because there's nothing to enter because the warrant didn't exist, right? And to make matters worse, it just gets worse and worse. Miss Parker is taken to Harris County Jail. She is booked, and during booking, they strip search her during the booking process. Still no active warrants on file, right? So she's violated at the jail upon booking, right? Maybe that's standard practice, but how are they doing this with no paperwork? How are they doing this with no active warrants? Clearly violations. Let's talk about that. She was not in the system, so guess what? She goes before court, or Deputy Price goes before court, and the courts take it upon his word that she has an active warrant. So she's issued no bond. And this is over the weekend. She has to stay in jail the entire weekend, and she's not even in the system. So essentially, she was kidnapped. That's what it appears to be. It's what it sounds like. That's what it is, right? So she gets no bond. There's no bond to even consider, because you have to process paperwork. It has to be entered. It has to be clerked. Also, it also has to be put on record in the courts, on record in court. That's also recorded and documented. And those records are then forwarded to the clerk's office for filing, right? So nothing exists. So this is just unimaginable, right? She remained in jail, as I mentioned, for the entire weekend. No charges, no warrants, and then no contact with her family or her children. She's in custody from Friday through Sunday. Totally ridiculous. So let's talk about what kind of violations that we currently have or what you may see. Maybe you see some additional, right? So again, I was floored when I'm looking at the story. I'm like, are you serious? Right? So here we go. Right? Again, um, some things you can't help but be emotional about. So it's just the ridiculousness of this and the violations, the audacity to do this to someone. Totally, totally unimaginable. So how many violations of search and seizure do we have and other offenses for this case? Right? So one, the unlawful physical arrest, which is essentially kidnapping. Second, I'm looking at the illegal search of her purse to go in there and get the keys for the home, right? You get the keys for the home. How about the illegal search of her home? They go to her residence and they enter with no search warrant. So the search warrant for her person or her arrest is separate from the search warrant for her home and potentially for her purse, right? You have to justify a probable cause for all of that when you're doing that. So is that pretty much a burglary? It's like a break-in. Like they basically broke into her home to search. So that's like they're committing a burglary at this time. Then they take her to jail and they literally strip search her during booking. Is that an SA? Could it be considered an SA? Right? Can't say the other term, or even worse, right? So that is an assault. We'll talk about that. And then there's no bond. She's never in the system. She's also held captive for the weekend. So they've removed her from one place to another, which by penal code justifies kidnapping, justifies the elements of the offense of kidnapping. Then she's taken, her home's ransacked, a break in. Then she's SA'd at the booking at the jail. To make matters even worse, even after all of this, the sheriff's deputy is still contacting her after this, trying to apologize, thinking he said he assumed she had warrants or he figured she had warrants. This is not something you assume. You have to know because you're taking someone's freedom, right? Their right to privacy, you're violating their rights, clearly. So again, was this kidnapping by the sheriff's deputies? I think if it's the penal code, sounds like they removed her from one place to another against her will and unlawfully because there's no probable cause, there's no search warrants, there's no search authority, as it's called, right? In the field of forensics, it's called search authority. You have the right to engage, you have the right to seize persons, places, and things, right? Violation of the Fourth Amendment several times over. So when we talk about kidnapping, we're talking about restraining someone or stopping someone from movement, restricting their movement, and or removing them from one place to another. From one place to another. Take a look at the Texas Penal Code for offense against persons, Chapter 20, kidnapping, unlawful restraint, and smuggling of a person or persons. So when we talk about restrain, this means to restrict a person's movement without consent so as to interfere substantially with the person's liberty, their freedom, by moving the person from one place to another. Took her from Chipotle to her home to the jail. She's been moved several times. Or by confining the person. She was also confined to the back of a unmarked car, not a cruiser, unmarked vehicle. They're also in plain clothes. Restraint is also without consent if it is accomplished by force, intimidation, deception. I think all these apply, right? Just the fact that you're law enforcement, maybe flash a badge or have a badge out in plain clothes, and you forced because you physically put her in handcuffs. Also, the deception, there's no warrant, there's no probable cause. You had no reason to arrest her. If the active warrants you had are for her ex, you would have probable cause and active warrants to arrest that person. Totally unrelated to Lenisha Parker. Force, intimidation, deception. So again, the unlawful strip search at the jail constitutes an assault based upon the Texas Penal Code. Let's take a look at that section. It says assault, still chapter 20 here. We're talking about the SA potentially. or just basic assault. Let's start with the assault first and foremost. It says a person commits an offense if the person intentionally, knowingly, recklessly causes bodily harm to another, including person's spouse. Or section 2, intentionally, knowingly threatens another with imminent bodily injury, including person's spouse. Or 3, which I think applies mostly in this case, intentionally or knowingly causes physical contact with another when the person knows or should reasonably believe that the other will regard the contact as offensive or provocative. You tell me in the chat, is this offensive? A strip search when you have no active warrants against me? You have no warrants, no probable cause, no reason to arrest me, let alone kidnap me, search my purse and search my home, and then put me in jail over the weekend with no active warrants. Just got to shake your head sometimes. So, does that fit the penal code? This is what law enforcement goes by, right? Literally, you can't make things up. They made it up in this case, but you're not supposed to be able to do that. You have to testify to that. You have to justify that. So they will have to answer for every action they've taken. They'll have to answer for the stress. Can you imagine the trauma, especially if you're a law-abiding citizen? She's a county clerk. So they actually work together, essentially, because she's probably clerked other warrants or other arrests he's had. But in this case, of course, Lenisha J. Parker files a lawsuit. Rightfully so. Maybe she should have done that. Of course, I stay neutral. I'm going to stay neutral here. I'm just presenting the facts of what happened, right? So let's do that. She files a lawsuit. In her allegations, she talks about the lawsuit in the context of what happened to her. She talks about the lawsuit in context with kidnapping. This incident describes kidnapping, and it caused severe trauma to her. The lawsuit also alleges a broader pattern of unlawful arrests by the Harris County Sheriff's Office, with a high percentage of false arrests targeting Black and Hispanic individuals. So, of course, now the data will be examined, the data will be verified, the data will be compared, contrasted, and this lawsuit also accuses the department of fostering a culture of silence, concealment, and toleration. So, has this happened before? Are there other lawsuits potentially? But in this lawsuit, defendants are named. So the attorney, along with Lenisha Parker, names, of course, Deputy Kenneth Daniel Price. But she also names Harris County Sheriff at that time, Ed Gonzalez, and the magistrate, Judge Lisa Gail Porter, at that time as defendants, because she was arrested by Price. He worked for the sheriff, and she was taken to court, given no bond, placed in jail for a weekend away from her family, against her freedom, illegally, in violation of her Fourth Amendment rights. So her official response from Price, from the deputy, he says, and he's trying to argue, he believed valid warrants existed. I'm going to call BS on that. The reason I say that, because I can't just go say you have warrants, take you to jail, strip search you, put you in jail for the weekend without being able to justify, testify, qualify, verify that these warrants are active. I have to swear an oath to signing. Every warrant I've signed, we swear. The judge makes us swear by it. Whether it's a house, whether it's an arrest warrant, whether it's a phone subpoena, whether it's a subpoena for video, audio, whatever, records, logs, everything. We have to swear to that and then articulate in court, produce the evidence, produce a probable cause, document, and everything. We have to show what we have while we're there. So, of course, a lawsuit's filed. So, pretty wild case. Again, you just can't make these things up. I want to talk about some scam alerts, because there are scammers out there that act as law enforcement. They act as law enforcement, and they'll call you or text you to scare you. This is for everyone that says, they'll say, you have active warrants. We need you to stop what you're doing. Contact us here at this number. Pay this money or pay, and these warrants can be cleared up. We can just clear this up, right? You may have warrants. It may be from out of state, allegedly. It may be them saying they have your son or granddaughter or grandson. They have warrants. So again, scam. That is a scam, right? No law enforcement is going to ask you. First of all, they're not going to contact you and ask you to pay monies to make some warrants go away. That's not how it works, right? So they may ask for cash. They may agree to meet, come to your home, because I've had cases like that. They actually come out to the residence. They may ask for checks. They may ask for money orders. They may ask for cryptocurrency or put cash into a Bitcoin ATM, or they may ask for bank wires or Cash App or Zelle, right? So any of the payment systems, law enforcement does not ask for that. And there's no way you're going to pay to get your warrants by phone and it just disappears, no paperwork, right? So do not do it. If you're not sure, call your local law enforcement entity. I wanted to talk about scam alerts because that is rampant. In this case, this was not a scam. This was not fake law enforcement. This was the real sheriff's deputy, out of control. As some people say, you're doing way too much or the most, right? I think it's both. And then illegally arresting someone, illegally searching their purse, searching their home, illegally having them strip searched and booked into jail over for a weekend. Even one minute's too long when you've done nothing wrong. So we're going to dial back to this case, see what the lawsuit outcome is later. But I wanted to engage this story. The sheriff with fake warrants. All you can do is shake your head, right? Pretty much all you can do is just shake your head at this one, right? Nonsense. But they're going to have to answer for this one big time. So we'll see what happens. This is a sheriff with fake warrants, brought to you by the Dr. Detective, a PhD true crime podcast. Please like, share, and subscribe. Go to the website, thedoctordetective.net. Find us on YouTube. I'll put this here again for the banner, right? YouTube.com at the Dr. Detective Troy Looney. And again, I want to thank you all for watching. Tune in again. Next episode to come. A little bit of variety. Again, story upon story upon story. So much going on at one time. As I always say, spread love, be compassionate, be cordial, check on your people, check on strangers. Just ask how you're doing, right? Spread some love. It goes a long way. I appreciate you all watching, and I want to thank you. Please like, share, and subscribe. As always, let's go.